It's you?
It's me?
Oh
It's
my God.
me that you're looking for from the other side.
Is that how it goes? Or is that a different song?
It's my own mashup I just created. Do you
Okay.
like it?
Okay. I was waiting for the lyrics because all I know is, hello, is it me you're looking for? And then,
From the other side.
oh, wow. 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 Hey, we're matching today. We
We
both
are matching. We both got our mugs on.
have mugs and our mugs
Mugs and our mugs and our punums and our chinums.
and our jugs.
Oh my god, yes, they're rosin.
I walked right into that. I don't know why.
I know you hate it when my breasts are rising, but like look, they're so perky today.
Stop it.
No, I'm not gonna stop it. You stop telling me to stop it.
Do we need like a
Stop.
sponsor? I see, like, I don't wear a bra anymore. I think we talked about that before.
I think we'd have to put my face on Cardi B.
Yeah. Oh my, because everybody seems to be doing that now on the gram, on the Instagram, and on the whatever Snapchat, and like, which I still don't have.
The amount of people that said that this is giving them life and that they want me to keep doing it, I'm like, what am I, Howie Mandel? I mean,
To life, l'chaim. Okay, there is a kind of a reason why we're sing-songy today, and we have someone coming on the show today, whom is a musical theater person.
yes, we have one of your people of the tribe.
Very, very talented man. Todd Talbot is on the show.
Yes, amazing.
So amazing. And for those of you that kind of like, oh, that name rings a bell, you probably know him from Vancouver's Love It or List It. So I guess now, is it Canada's Love It or List It? Was it the old in Canada?
Well,
I don't know.
okay, well, you know what though? It's interesting. When you were telling me about Love It or List It, I was thinking about the show that was before at Love It or Lose It, because that was a show that was on before Love It or List It. So I was so confused when you're like, "Oh, Todd Talbot," like Love It or List It. I'm thinking, isn't there a show? Wasn't there a show Love It or Lose It? And then there was, but then it went off, and now Love It or List It. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's Canadian based. It's Kelowna, and it was Vancouver and then Kelowna oriented, right?
Yeah, well, we'll ask him about that because I think that was just in the last little bit while Jillian Harris, his co-host, moved back to her hometown, I think, and wanted to be more stationed in Kelowna. But anyway, that's probably where you more famously know him from.
Yep.
But that show hasn't actually, I don't think it's been on for at least a year and a bit. So I'm not sure what's going on with the show, but Todd is just multifaceted. I mean, he is a real estate agent. I think that's where and he's also an actor, but I think that's obviously those combinations.
To be a host of television. Yeah.
Of course. And entrepreneur. I already said singer. So the reason why how I knew him actually prior to even Love It or List It is he was in a show with my mom, maybe just one show, I'm not sure, but a production with my mom, because my mom's in musical theater. Did I tell you this?
I think you did, but I don't remember which production it was.
Yeah, so they did a production of White Christmas, which is a musical, and they did it at the Stanley Theater in Vancouver, so on South Granville there, for, I want to say, like 4 or 5 Christmases in a row. So Todd, he was one of the main characters in the show, and my mom was in that as well. And so that's kind of where I knew he's so talented. And that's kind of where I knew him. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, Mom, didn't you do a show with him? He's on TV now. She's like, oh yeah, I know. He's so talented. He does everything.
Yeah. Clearly. And also, I mean, being a father, which is, in my opinion, the most remarkable job you could ever have, of 2 beautiful kids.
Yes. And now, which is, kind of hop right into today, he's actually pretty close to where I live right now. So he's in the Okanagan, and yeah, so he's got a brand called A-Frame. So E-H, like Canada. 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 A-Frame, which is an homage to the, I want to say cabin, but I'm sure it's going to be a beautiful house that they're actually building in the shape of a frame. on the water in the Okanagan. So their whole thing was they were, I guess in the beginning, it was all about following their journey of creating this, because I think they came across a lot of hurdles of when they could break ground, and we'll have to talk to them about that. And then it kind of became, he started to come out with like merchandise. So it's a lifestyle brand too. So he does hats, and
Amazing.
I don't know if you've seen that, some really cool crew neck sweaters and those kinds of things. So, and he blogs about it. And so anyway, they just actually broke ground, I believe, within the last month. And now they're living, it's a whole new chapter of their lives. They're living up in the Okanagan area on the lake for like 5 months, I think. So,
oh, wow.
His wife, Rebecca, is homeschooling the kids, and they've got this whole new journey they've embarked on.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, you know, I want to hear more about where he's kind of headed, and what, I don't know if Love It or List has been on hiatus. I have no idea. And lastly, I found out, because I was doing some, you know, some research like Rachel does, and Hero kind of flies by the seat of his pants sometimes, which is great as well.
Yep. You're welcome.
I love it. He was on a Canadian TV series called Hillside for a couple of years back in the early 90s with Ryan Reynolds.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, I was trying to
Ryan Reynolds.
Remember that series, but a Canadian American teen drama that aired on YTV.
I love YTV.
And on Nickelodeon. So it was the series with Nickelodeon's only teenage soap opera.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hilarious.
My God. He knows Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, very fascinating. So anyway, you know,
Rachel.
The journey. What's that?
He knows Ryan Reynolds.
I feel like almost everyone loves Ryan Reynolds. Doesn't matter who you are. He is like, this episode is not about Ryan Reynolds.
A future one could be.
Hey, he's an RR like me.
Yes. I know, right? Our
quadrupled.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Our tetra.
Sure. Love it. In any case, that is Todd. He'll be on momentarily. Super excited.
Yes. I'm really excited to learn more about what he's been up to from the entertainment industry, and then balancing that with being, you know, raising 2 kids.
Right. Oh, of course.
You balance the professional behind the camera, and then have your kids, and then balancing their exposure to social media, being in the spotlight, and now living in a more remote area. How do you balance that with society? Well,
and his kids, because he has them on his social media. He's pretty open as well.
Yeah.
Their son, I believe, is an actor, and he's been on a couple things. And so, yeah, kind of passing down the torch in that sense. And that's, you know, it's interesting because a lot of actors, you'll hear them say, they're like, if there's something my child could be in life, it's funny. I've kind of tried to pull back the swear words lately. I don't know why, but I'm going to swear right now. They say, sure fucking hope it's not an actor. Like they,
yeah.
So, you know, but when your parents do something, it's like, how can you not want to emulate your parents?
Yeah. Well, I haven't emulated my parents.
True. Okay. True.
I haven't emulated anyone in my family. I've been a rainbow sheep.
I love it. Not everybody's like that, obviously, but I don't know. I feel like maybe actually at a very young age, because his kids are pretty young. Did you ever kind of want to be, I don't know, a lawyer? Or is there anything kind of interesting about your parents that you were like, oh, I could do that?
Well, my mom being an artist, definitely had creative expression, and I did try to do some of the stuff that my mom did, like felt artistry or painting or drawing and stuff. But no, from a very young age, I was always wanting to be a video game designer. I always wanted to be working with I thought about maybe working with dogs because I loved animals.
Okay.
And then I found fashion, and that was basically it, until I found yoga. And then I like them both equally, just for different reasons.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I know Todd's going to be on here in a second, but it's because my parents, like I said, both of them were into musical theater. My dad did some acting. He was on like a number of episodes of like the X-Files back in the day and those kinds of things. And it did influence me, especially the music part. Like, and then I went to school. Yeah. And then I worked at Sarah McLachlan's record label for a little bit, and now doing this, like, I mean, there's always that creative bone in my body. And I think same probably for you.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of like, if you've got creative parents, especially like Todd and Rebecca, his wife, both are in, I think she was a model, and she's also into acting and singing and those kinds of international, I think. So those creative things, I think a lot of kids do tend to kind of, I don't know, gravitate.
Yeah. Well, yes, but also, I mean, it's even from conception, though. Like, it runs in your DNA, it runs in your blood, right? It runs in the spirit of the person, and then what the parents do when, what the mother does, for sure, when she's carrying the child to be born. What is she doing? Because that's sending direct information to the baby, right?
And that could be a whole other conversation about anxiety and those kinds of things. If you're
intergenerational trauma.
Gosh, yeah. Okay, now we're going there again.
I know. This episode is going to be great to talk to someone that is from our area of residence, that has been working in the entertainment industry. And again, though it all comes back right now, for example, to the pandemic, it's affecting everyone, especially in the entertainment industry. And as a parent, educating your kids and ensuring that they have some kind of normalcy in their life you're trying to provide them, even if we as adults might be like, this shit ain't normal right now. You know, how do you raise a freaking kid in a pandemic like this? I have no idea.
But it sounds like, for example, Todd and Rebecca are really taking, for a lack of a better word, taking advantage of the situation. And
for sure they are.
Yeah, and doing what he's doing right now. They're like, you know what? Okay, it's only, what is it, April? Let's pull the kids from school. I don't know if maybe they were homeschooled before, I'm not sure. But let's have this adventure.
Yes.
This sense of life, and live on this land and have them see dad create something. And it's pretty cool.
Oh, for sure. It's very cool and very worthwhile for the kids to see that kind of more distant lifestyle, I think, to not be consumed by a bigger city or as much stimulation, I think, as much influence in some ways.
Right. Yeah. And another thing, and I don't know if we really want to go down the real estate road, but Todd obviously knows Vancouver and the real estate market, that coffee, real estate market very well, and how freaking bananas it's been for quite a long time, and how it's seeping into all these other neighborhoods, like even where I live, where, you could buy Hey!
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Nice to meet you.
I know, this is like just jumping into the deep end.
It's amazing, right? Welcome to the other side.
Thank you. Where are you guys? You are both in Vancouver?
I'm in Vancouver.
No, so Todd, I was actually gonna say I could have masked up and met you, because I've been living in Vernon now for a couple years. And yeah, we just kind of were like, for a lack of a better word, fuck this Vancouver. We're tired of the rat race. We're tired of I don't have to tell you about real estate. So, move to Vernon. But now Vernon, it's just bonkers everywhere. So so you must be, where in the Okanagan are you?
Well, I'm sitting here. I'm going to show you the little view right there.
Yes.
We are on West Side Road, just outside of West Kelowna in the regional district. So about 15 minutes up the road from Highway 97 in this little bay. Yeah. It's a little spot called Bluegrass Ranch. There's 14 properties down here. We bought a piece of property here about just about 4 years ago. And we're just getting ready to build, which has been a long time coming. And so we actually homeschooled the kids this year for a number of reasons, obviously COVID being one of them. And so we moved up, rented a cabin a few doors over from one of our neighbors, and which you can see in the background. Yeah. And we're attempting to get started.
That is awesome. Yeah, and I kind of, so just before you hopped on, we kind of do a little intro. Although obviously you have no idea what we said about you. They're all good things, but but what we kind of like to do is also have you introduce yourself. So, basically what I was saying is how I don't even know if you remember me. I don't even know if we actually met in person, but I am Susan Anderson's daughter. It's the first time I've said her name on this podcast. Sorry, Mom, if you wanted to be, you're an enemy. It was gone now, but she is a musical theater actress, and she was in a production called White Christmas with Todd for, I want to say, how many Christmases?
Many years. Yeah, I think we did it for 4 seasons. And as a side note, I don't know if she listens to your podcast or not, but she is one of the loveliest people you will ever meet. Not only in the business of entertainment, which you can meet some pretty odd people, but she's super talented. I mean, to hear her sing is amazing, and working with her was awesome.
And I'm just going to say I know. I hear that all the time, and I completely agree with you. She's one of those, I'm just going to gush about her a little bit. She's one of those talents that I'm like, Mom, like you could have made it on Broadway. Like you could have, I don't know, something happened and who knows. But anyway, it was such a delight to see you in that production. And I know you have been doing musical theater for quite a long time, and you have a multifaceted background in like musical theater, real estate, acting, entrepreneurship. I mean, now you've created like a lifestyle brand, essentially.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Just why you're a perfect match for the show.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I mean, I hate talking about what I do because people are like, these things don't connect. And people have a really hard time understanding that. I think most people have a very diverse life where they've got all these different threads that kind of come together somewhere. Mm-hmm. And, but we don't, it's not easy to articulate it. And so we tend to default to like one thing. I do X. And it shortchanges, I think, when you're talking about yourself, because you like all these different things. You've got fingers in a lot of different pies, and then what I've learned, especially kind of publicly, is people have a hard time identifying with more than one thing. Yeah. They really want you to be one thing for them, and normally it's the thing that they saw you do first, or they met you doing first. So for you, Rachel, like if you saw me in White Christmas, your mindset would be, he's a theater guy. Yeah. And, a lot of people know me from Love It or List It. So they think that character that I played, similar to the character in White Christmas, is who I am. And it's a funny thing to deal with. I think I've kind of come to terms with it over the years, but I struggled with it for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't being in the entertainment industry just means you have to have all those backup plans, so you are multifaceted, like everything? I'm just being silly, but it's kind of typical almost.
I think today I sound old, but I think now in our current culture is that everyone's got multiple things going on. And I don't think it's necessarily out of necessity. I think it's out of opportunity. So people do frame it like backup plans and, you need something else going on. I tend to not look at it that way. I've never designed my life to have a specific backup plan. Like I'm going to go to university so that if acting doesn't work out, then blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
I'm always like, I'm in 100%. And then something else out of that, spawns, and I kind of follow that. And then you just kind of like follow. I followed my nose in my career, and just weird things have happened. But yeah, anyway.
But you make a great point though, because I mean that's exactly how I have lived my life. Is you follow your intention, you follow what you are interested in, and then you see where it takes you, and then from there you meet people, you meet places, you're there at the right place, the right time. Those things generate different leads, and so it might seem like, oh, that's your backup plan, but actually it's more, no, you're doing what you love, and from what you love, other things sprout, and then you kind of take those opportunities as they're handed to you, and you see where they take you.
Yeah, I mean, you got to mix in a little bit of, well, you don't have to. I mean, there's no have tos, but I think for me, you mix in a little bit of filtering these decisions with a little bit of foresight, so some of the decisions that I've made have been because I have children, like there's other factors that start to weigh in where you kind of go, well, while it would be nice to just kind of pack up and, move to New York with Rebecca, and it's possible, we have kids. And so we kind of, we shift, what opportunities come our way based on where we're at in our life and what our priorities are.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you say that, because just before you hopped on, I was like, Todd's really, it's fantastic to see it. You're doing exactly that with your kids. You literally were just like, you know what? There's this new opportunity adventure that I want to take my family on, this journey of taking them. What did you say? 5 months we're going to spend in a different city. We're going to spend it on the lake. We're going to, still continue to homeschool you. And I mean, those lessons to teach your kids it's awesome. And they're getting to see dad create something. And I mean, how are they enjoying this journey so far? I mean, I think it's only been a couple weeks since you've been.
Yeah, it's, I think they enjoy it. I think they enjoy, both of my kids are really different. So my daughter, Ashlyn, is 11 and a half years old, and she's really, she loves being close to us and especially Rebecca, my wife. And so the whole homeschool kind of be as one unit really works for her. She loves it. My son, who's 9, also loves it, but he is much more of an extrovert. Like, he gets filled by being with people. And so I think COVID has really put a damper on that for him. And, there's no other kids up here. There's two other couples up here, retired. And so, there's pros and cons to it. But yeah, I hope as a parent, you make these decisions and you just do your best, and you hope that one day they'll look back on this and be like, that was cool. That was a cool summer or, year. And I learned all these different things. I got exposed to these different things, and I don't know. Like,
absolutely. And when I was looking at A-Frame, because at first I was like, oh, he's got a construction company that he's creating A-frame houses, and I wonder if down the road if that is going to be something you'll do. But explain to people what exactly A-frame is or how it started, because that's, you create. I mean, the brand, what you're wearing, the clothing maybe came as an afterthought. I'm saying maybe, but it's cool. Yeah,
it came as an afterthought. It grew out of the idea around this home that we wanted to build up here, and we needed a name for it because we'd been renting this cabin in Shuswap for a number of years, and we called it the Cabin in the Woods. That's how we just described it inside of our family. And so we're like, we need a name for this. And once we kind of landed on this idea of building an A-frame, it's a bit cheesy, but we spelled it EH and Canadiana. Come on, I'm a proud Canadian. One thing led to another. I was like, we need a hat. Like, I gotta wear a hat. And then, we just again, followed our nose down this kind of online store and brand, and I basically wanted to create a home to kind of share the journey of building this house. People are always fascinated with it. We're aiming to kind of make it as sustainable as possible, aiming towards net zero. Solar array on the roof. I think there's lots of different cool things that we're going to try to undertake with the build, and we just wanted to kind of share that journey with everybody. More of a passion project than anything.
That's fantastic.
An expensive passion project.
Right. And with your kids though as well, I mean, you want your kids to have the most, I mean, not you in terms of yourself, but you in terms of a parent, you would want someone to have their kids to be as neutral as possible, right? You want them to be influenced by what they're inspired by, what they see. But before you hopped on, me and Rachel were discussing how our kids, like as me and Rachel have kids, but kids have influences from their parents in terms of what they might be inspired to do with their career, what they might be inspired to do with their hobbies or their interests, because the parents are the influence. So I'm curious a little bit to know, is that are your children influenced by yourself and Rebecca, and in terms of what you have done, what you are doing, or have they found their own ways of expressing themselves through what they've so far identified, what stands out to them?
Great question. A lot to unpack in there. I mean, I think philosophically, obviously you can't avoid influencing your children by your own behavior. And so, that actor's third eye is always kind of at least for me, analyzing, okay, well, what parts of me do I want to highlight? And what parts of me do I want to, try and pull back on a little bit? So that, I think, is just a given. And then they get exposed, obviously, to your career and your life choices.
Yeah.
And that influences them. And, both Rebecca and I have been in the entertainment industry, like professionally, our whole lives. And my son has quite a blossoming acting career in film and television. He just wrapped a massive project for Netflix where he played the lead in a show called Lost Ollie that will be a while before it comes out, because it's partially animated and partially live action. And so it's very cool to watch kind of him navigate this while being very young. And so Rebecca primarily does most of it. Like, she's there with him on set every day.
Wow.
Does a lot of, work with him, coaching and stuff like that. So, and when they were younger, I was torn because, while I've managed to navigate the business, it can be harsh, not in terms of the economics. Like, people always default to that, like, oh, if you're an actor, you're not going to have much money and blah, blah, blah. I don't buy into that, but it's more the emotional roller coaster that in my experience, some people are cut out for it and some people aren't. And it has nothing to do with their ability to sing or act or dance or whatever. It's truly, it's a business, and you have to have a certain temperament to navigate it. Yeah. And it can really hurt some people. And so I want to protect my kids from that. My daughter, as it pertains to the entertainment industry, it's interesting because I think she's got a beautiful singing voice, and she's taking voice lessons from, it's hard right now because she's kind of followed more in Rebecca's footsteps. There's a program called Gotta Sing, Gotta Dance in Vancouver. Which
God. Yes, I was in that.
Were you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Two summers ago, Ashlyn did it for the first year. And I sat in the audience, like, this is ridiculous, but I sat in the audience to watch the show at the end.
Yeah.
And I was a mess. I was just bawling I feel emotional just even remembering it. And she just I don't know, she just stepped into that moment, and she's little and all that kind of good stuff. And unfortunately, everything's shut down in that regard. So she hasn't really had that outlet, and I think she's craving for it. So they're around it. It's just what they know, and but we also love to travel, which obviously isn't happening now either. We love to, the world of real estate and building and renovating and stuff like that. And so Ashlyn, took on this project of creating a tiny house, and she built, from an architectural standpoint. And so they do pick up these themes in your life, and
absolutely. I'm just wondering now, like, how do you, because I know, for instance, you do, maybe highlight's the wrong word, but you do have your children on your own social media, like on your Instagram. And I think Rebecca does as well. Yeah. So how do you teach them about social media and, how to stay humble and how to, I guess, differentiate between what's real, what's not, like, the whole popularity contest of social media? Because even as an adult, like it screws me up. Like, I mean, start to get competitive, and I start to get like, why, just as a pure example with our podcast, I'm like, why do we not have this many followers yet? What's going on? What are we doing wrong? And then you get so in your head. So I'm just wondering, you kind of navigate.
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, kind of in reverse order, I would say that everyone is competitive, and it hurts everybody. Mm-hmm. Unless you really don't care about it, like you're just you got your 90 friends on Facebook, and you just kind of use it for that purpose. But if you're in it as a game, whether it's a podcast or it's a little online business, or it's a personal brand, or whatever it is, it really is catapulting you back into high school. And
gosh,
I don't care who you are, it's complete bullshit if people say that it doesn't elicit certain feelings. 100%. I don't care if you got 10 million followers or you've got 50. So I think it's damaging, and it's something that you have to always be aware of and kind of try to be intentional about. And at the same time, no one wants to hear anyone post like, oh, I'm going to take a break from social. No one gives a shit. Just take your damn break. Like, if that's what you need to do, don't tell me about it. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. And, as a parent, I would prefer to shelter my kids from it. But unfortunately, that's just not the reality. They both have accounts, but they don't touch them. They don't know how to get into them. Rebecca posts on their accounts for, like for Kessler, he's shooting whatever, blah, 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 or Ashlyn's doing something. And so, she's just kind of doing it on their behalf. They know about it. They look at it from time to time. But I think they're on the cusp of kind of getting more into it. But we haven't quite stepped into it. Like, we haven't given them phones. They don't have access to social media. So they're more into watching shows and maybe some video games type of stuff. That's what they're negotiating for. But I can see it coming. And I mean, I know that they're going to get hurt by it to a certain degree. It's like letting your kid go to high school. You're going to have tough times, like just the way it goes. And it's shitty, but I don't know the solution.
No.
I don't think there is a solution though to social media. I mean, honestly, I would love to not have a phone. And Rachel might laugh at hearing that, but I even said to Rachel before, I would love to not have a phone. I would love to be remote. I would love to be disconnected. But it's interesting because I'm also someone that craves not the validation, but the connection to society and people. So especially even now, where we're in a place where we're supposed to be inhumane socially, to distance from people, to not be around a lot of people, this is basically our lifeline to connecting with people. And so it kind of screws the psychology up about what we think we're supposed to be doing when it comes to building community with people. It's unprecedented for us in our generation, at least.
Yeah. Go.
I agree. I think it's just going to unfold in front of us, and we just have to be, I think you just have to continually check in with yourself and with the people around you, about what is healthy. And I think ultimately the litmus test is, what brings you happiness. So, if at times social media, it's kind of like drinking, you can, at a certain point it tips from being kind of fun, happy factor, social, blah, 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 into like, oh, wait a second. Is this, harming me more than it's doing good? And I think it's the same thing with everything. It's like social media or whatever it is, a job for that matter, like, is this hurting me more than it's helping me? And that's kind of what I do. I mean, I've left jobs like a television series because that equation tipped a little bit. Yeah. And it's never one or the other. Like, that's the struggle, Hero, that you're in, because you're going, well, I like it over there. I would like to disconnect, but I also like it over here. So you're always finding that balance.
Yeah, absolutely, you are, for sure. And again, being in a more remote community, I think, is a blessing because you don't have as much external stimulation to be distracted by. As long as you don't feel repressed and you don't feel like you're deprived or you feel like you're missing out, then again, I think that comes from the parental guidance as well, with the ages they're at, being able to support their empowerment to realize they actually have a gift, and something they might not view as a gift, but it actually is.
There was something because you said about the television series, and it's interesting because we've talked all this time. We haven't really talked about Love It or List It, which I know that's pretty much what I think a lot of people know you from. Now, is it on hiatus? Is it over? Are you allowed to say that?
Yeah. No, I'm allowed to say. Okay. I was about to say I'm allowed to say whatever I want, but that is not true. Contracts are funny things, and but what I can say is that we wrapped season 5, which was 131-hour episodes. Took us 8 years to film it, and it was. I think everyone had their own opinions and their own choices around what they wanted to do at that juncture. And for me, I was very clear early on, probably by season 3, that, while there was a lot of great things about it, it was definitely time for me to move on. I was under contract for 5 seasons, so they kept renewing. And as we went into season 5, I made it clear to the production company that this would be my last season, and there was interest in doing season 6, but I'd made that choice a long time ago, and it's a lovely paycheck, and it feeds a certain ego element where you have this default thing to be able to say, oh yeah, I'm on this TV show, or long running, blah, blah, blah. And it just it's something that people can latch onto real quick and easy.
Yeah.
But I knew for myself that I'd experienced it, and it was great for what it was, but it was definitely time for me to move on. And so I made that independent decision, and whether that had an impact on whether the whole show continued or not.
Well, it sounds like Jillian almost had a similar feeling. I don't know, but have you seen her since you've been up, and do you guys talk? Because I know you're in the same you're in the hood now. You're in the same next.
Yeah, we're about literally 15 minutes apart now.
Wow.
I have a restraining order on her, so she's not allowed to come any closer. No, we haven't seen each other. She messaged me the other day because we're in this super retro cabin. Like, this is like a time capsule. And there's this kind of a mustardy green colored stove. And so I was on my stories, and so she messaged me, and she's like, where can I buy this stove from you, or whose is it? And I was like, well, we rented this place, so I probably should have sold it and just
yeah, totally.
Yeah. But no, I mean, we it's funny. We spent so much time together. It's kind of like, if people don't understand or don't have a glimpse into how shows work, which is like, for example, your mom, Susan and I spent every Christmas together for 4 years. It's a very intimate time of life, a time of the year. And we're shoved into this tiny little space. We get to experience this great show with all these people. It's very connected. And yet, when's the last time I talked to her? Mm-hmm. You have these experiences with people, and then you go and you move on. Yeah. The connection is always there. Like,
yeah.
Jill and I are very different people, and it's often hard to describe the relationship between the two of us, because people want to know, do you like each other or do you not like each other? Like, are you the same as you are on TV or not?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my goodness, you simply can't answer that. We would pick up, I know if we went for a drink tonight, we'd probably just kind of pick up where we left off. And we'd slot back into not the characters that we played on the show, but, the relationship that we had. Mm-hmm. And, while we were doing the show, we were at very different places in our lives. I had 2 babies when we started. Wow. She had 2 babies when we finished. So, I was, in some ways, I'm older than Jill. So in some ways I was going through the craziness that she kind of went through at the end. And some of the things that she had learned and gone through earlier on in her career, I was exploring late. Like, so we have some of these weird overlaps, and, I watched her have kids and adjust to that lifestyle, and tease her about, misery loves company. And it's like, working and feeling that pull and that sacrifice. And it's different for women, obviously, being a mom. But yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like our relationship just got put on a shelf, and we've gone off to do the things that we really needed to do. And we were somewhat limited by the fact that we had this obligation to the show. Mm-hmm. And now we get to step back into kind of doing what we want to do.
Well, then, and that's just interesting, because we, like, Hero and I've had a few reality TV show, quote unquote, guests on the show, predominantly for some reason from Hell's Kitchen. We've had like, I don't know where this is coming from, but we've had, like, how many have we had now? 3, 4?
Yep, 3.
So it's interesting that you just, with these different production companies, how they're all slightly different, but they all have the same thing in common, where everybody just, they think they know you from this, especially because it's called a reality TV show. So they're like, well, then that has to be reality. That's how you know who you are. So for example, we haven't aired this episode, but we had, go ahead.
I'm just going to say it's the great myth, right? Like, you nailed it in the fact that they call it reality. And for the most part, it is not true. It's not that it's not, it's this, it depends on how you want to carve it up and what spin you want to put on it. Mm-hmm. Is it real people? Yes. So, are they cooking real food? Sure. So at what point do you want to draw the line as to real or not real? The question people always ask me is like, is it scripted? I'm like, no, it's not scripted. I mean, we improvise the content. So, but there's this gray area in it. And I think the big separator from the scripted world to the reality world is that 2 things. Number one is we use our own names.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the big separator. Like, I've been in this business for 20 plus years before I did Love It or List It, and I worked nonstop. But I got stopped, by people recognizing me from one thing or the other, rarely, and they would never know my name. They'd be like, "Oh, you're the guy from blah blah blah." Now, like, even with a mask on, a hat, glasses, people hear my voice and they know my name. And so because it's your name, they associate that character with who you are.
That's right. Yeah.
That's number one. And then the other thing is that, we it's the title. Reality is the issue. In the scripted world, we have this agreement with the audience that if we do this really well, you'll suspend disbelief and then you'll believe it for a while. But then when you turn the show off, that the guy from Bridgerton is not actually that guy.
Right.
Well, some people are really messed up and they actually do believe this stuff. But in the reality world, we tell you it's true, but it's the same. It goes into the same bucket. It's entertainment.
Yeah.
People making money off of entertainment. And if you enjoy it, great. No harm done. But anyways.
Well, no, but it's true though, because again, in terms of local production, I've mentioned this kind of passively through different episodes. I was actually a featured date on First Dates Canada when it filmed here in Vancouver back in 2015. I think I was actually one of the first season featured dates. And so I said to myself, being a reality TV addict, loving reality shows, if I ever ended up on a reality show, my own or someone else's or a podcast, just saying, that I will always be me. I don't care what kind of editing they're going to do. I don't care what they're going to say, what they're going to try. I'm not going to give them anything that they can splice or take. Anything that comes out of my mouth is going to be representative of who I would be if someone saw me in person, right? And so I told them that from the very beginning. And so luckily they connected to that, because that's kind of what their tone was for the show. Be who you are. Don't be someone you're not. You see the show come on, and there's a lot of people that are not like that.
Todd has a lot to say about this. Go.
With all due respect, you can say that and you can try and carve the persona, whether it's real or not real for that matter. You can try and carve the persona that you want, but it depends on the formula that you are stepping into.
Correct.
So if you step into something that's really aligned with who you are and that happens to work, then for the most part, you'll be able to be successful in that. Mm-hmm. But if you step into a formula that dictates a different outcome, they'll get it. Yeah. They'll get it from you one way or the other. Mm-hmm. They'll either get it from you through editing. I mean, you'll always be able to bring a certain essence of who you are. But I mean, my role on Love It or List It was very strategic. Like, I knew what I was up against when I started this. So I knew that there was a show before, and I knew the imbalance of popularity in the designer, the person keeping people in their home, and that whole like stay in your house, that whole heartstring thing, recreating a space. Of course, that's more attractive. That's more attractive to me. I don't believe that people should sell their house and move because there's an issue with it. That's what I do, is renovate spaces for our family because of blah, blah, blah. So I'm actually way more on that side of the ledger, which grinded at me for years.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because the show wants you to be, you need to list it. And I'm like, I actually don't think that. And I softened it over time, right? I just kept saying, like you did, I'm like, I refused to be defeated by the win on the other side. I just didn't give it to them. Like, I was like, awesome. I'm gonna kick your ass next time. But I think their decision was the right one. That's how I worked within the confines of it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I did was I was like, I can't win people's choice out there in the world, or that's what I thought anyways. And so what I could try to do was be funny.
Yeah.
And so I decided to use comedy as an access point to the audience, which is authentic, but I don't act like that in real life. Like, you know, if the three of us went out looking at properties, like I'm not cracking jokes. But in the show, there was nothing else that I could do to make myself feel comfortable enough and stake my claim on that format.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it turned it a little. I managed to turn the ship a little bit.
Well, yeah.
And I don't think they liked it at the beginning.
Well, no, because, you know, you have an influence about the show, about why they chose you or why you applied. And they said, yes, we'd love for you to be the spotlight of this production. And then you become a fixture and a staple. They kind of need you. Yes, in some ways you're dispensable. There's someone around the corner. But at the same time, the viewers know you for you and from that production because you started it. So you can start to kind of taper in, as you said, your ways of coping and steering it to be more customized to who you are. So it therefore is more successful. They might not have that trajectory, but in your head, you know, they're going to like it because it's going to show in the ratings and the viewing because it's more authentic to that part that I'm showing to those viewers.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But then there's some big things you just can't win. And I gave up, you know, years ago about certain things that I thought should change about the show. And I realized that, you know, it's a successful format. They don't, no one actually wants it to change. They would listen to me. I'd go to the network and we'd have these great meetings and blah, 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 blah. And then years ago, I realized, oh, they actually don't give a shit because they're making a ton of money off this thing. And they really want me to be happy and kind of do my thing, but they don't want to change it.
No.
You know, it's the Big Mac. You make the Big Mac. Now you want to wear your hat like this while you make the Big Mac? Okay, we don't love it, but you know, go ahead. But you know, patty, lettuce, tomato, you know, wham bam, and move on.
I'm curious to know, because now if you don't mind, sir, we might go back a little bit further in your life. Sometimes we kind of like to go back and forth, but how did you, like, just because I know you've done a lot of things. You said you've been in the entertainment industry for a very long time. Actually, I was reading, because I know there's three different kind of, not generations, but decades between the three of us, actually, believe it or not. And so when I saw that you were on Hillside, is that what it's called?
Yeah, in Canada it was called Hillside. It was basically, I mean, in the world now it's known as 15 because it was a show for Nickelodeon in the States, and it did air in Canada. And that was the first big show that I did. So I did that for 5 seasons.
Right. And I'm trying to remember if I remember that, but I would have been like 10-ish. So I have to go back. Okay, stop it. Yeah. You don't want to know how old this one is to my whatever direction he is.
He's down here.
For you, he's over here for me. So in any case, my question is, so that was your first big gig. So did you always know you wanted to get into the entertainment industry? How did you get into real estate? I mean, those two, and that's where I'm curious about those two specific facets in your life or career decision.
Yeah, I don't think I really had, like, as a kid, I wasn't really enamored with the entertainment industry. I didn't want to be an actor. I wanted to play in the NHL, to be honest with you.
Oh.
And, you know, I don't know. I never really thought about it. My mom put me in a fashion show at school. Like, she just volunteered me for it. And I think in grade 7 or something like that. And so I'm out on this is how I remember it anyways. You know, I'm out on this catwalk and I do this, you know, and people are like, wah! That was kind of my first experience of that kind of thing. And they let me keep one item of clothing from that thing. And so I had this like jean jacket or something like that. And I I remember saying to my mom, like, do people get paid for this? And she's like, yeah. So I was like, I think I want to try this. And we had a friend of like one of my closest friends. His dad was a professional actor from New York, and he was the head of the theater program at UVic. And he would come over to Vancouver to shoot or audition and stuff like that, and stay with us. It's called Harvey Miller and said, our son, like, because my parents don't know anything about this business at all. And so they're like, our son wants to try this thing. And my parents are amazing because they're like, I'm the oldest of 5. If you wanted to try something, they were like, absolutely, go try it, regardless of whether they knew anything about it. So they asked Harvey about getting an agent, or like, what do you do? At that time, there was really only one agency in Vancouver, and it was Marie Morton's talent agency.
Oh, it wasn't characters. I was thinking.
No, okay. It was 4 characters. And so, Michael J. Fox, I mean, you name the people in Vancouver. So I signed with Marie Morton and started doing little things and, some print ad stuff and little bits on TV shows and stuff like that. And then I got this show 15. And the thing that happened, I guess, with that is I guess I kind of got the bug of, like, I kind of got hooked into it. I realized that I was a shitty actor. So I had self-awareness from that standpoint. And so I knew that I wanted to go to theater school. Like, so when I finished the show, some people had the natural inclination, confidence, whatever, to like slide into people like Ryan Reynolds. Just kind of kept going in his career. And I decided to take the more lucrative route, which was to go to theater school and do live theater. So that's kind of how that whole piece manifested. And, I went to theater school. I got an opportunity to go to London, England. I spent 3 years there. And then eventually found my way back to Vancouver, never intending to stay in Vancouver, but I worked across the country and eventually kept getting pulled back to Vancouver. And, my career just kind of grew from there, mostly in live theater. That's the place that I became most comfortable. I didn't like film and television auditions and all that kind of stuff. So I stayed in that realm and I loved it. Concurrently to coming back to Vancouver, I ended up buying my first place. I went out to rent a basement suite with a buddy of mine. Yeah. And I realized, well, I could actually buy a 2-bedroom suite, rent the other bedroom to him, and we could live in kits in this brand new 2-bedroom apartment for cheaper than, renting a place. I think we spent $500 each, which covered the mortgage, the maintenance, the property tax, I bought it for $192,000.
Of course.
Forward, my brother gave me a book about refinancing, which is a whole nother topic. But I read this book, and something in me, I was just like, I understood it. Like, I just, and I never wanted a career in real estate. I still, maybe I shouldn't say this, but like I don't do real estate for other people. That's not my game. I never have. I never will. I have a team of people who help, like on the realtor side. We invest, we develop, we do all kinds of things. I bring people into the fold, but you don't hear me talk about it. I don't have an open for business sign. I am licensed, but I'm not a realtor. Like, I don't run around with people, never have. My passion was to play the game of real estate. When I was younger, I just used it to climb this weird ladder. And it was a great time in Vancouver. I was making money. Like, I was like, oh my God, allowing myself to build a financial foundation and act full time. So I was acting in theater full time and just kind of doing this on the side. Now, when you spend enough time doing anything, it starts to gain momentum. And actors would take me out for beers or coffee or whatever and say, well, how do I buy a place? And so eventually I said, all right, So at Carousel Theater in Vancouver, Carol Higgins was running the show down there, and I went to her and I said, "Can you give me the space?" I think we charged $10 for people. I can't remember. Maybe we didn't charge anything. I think we donated it all to something. Anyways, I did a workshop. I didn't even know that people got paid for this stuff. Like I didn't even understand it. We did an evening about just educating people about the process of figuring out their financial future and real estate. And it was packed, like standing room only. And from there, I kind of became like the de facto real estate guy who knew stuff in the theater acting world.
Okay.
And, you know, there were other things that grew behind the scenes, but I was always an actor first and foremost. I never told anybody about the real estate side. I kept it kind of closeted other than doing this workshop, you know, like, but you know what I mean? Like I wasn't trying to build a business. I was just trying to do my own thing. And then Shel Piercy, who is a producer in Vancouver, was hired to run the Vancouver production of Love It or List It. And they went out looking for a number of, a bunch of guys and a bunch of women, and they kind of found 4 or 5 women that they were interested in. But the story that they told me was that they really couldn't find a guy to play this part. And so partway through the process, Shel calls me. I was driving in my truck on the way to Granville Island, first day of rehearsal for High Society. And Shel Piercy calls, so I pull over, and he's like, "Look, we're doing this show. I don't know why I didn't think of you earlier. It kind of brings your two worlds together. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Sure. I mean, you know, I'm an actor." I was like, "Sounds fun." I liked HGTV. And so I was like, "Yeah." Anyways, you know, fast forward. And now, you know, the show tipped my career heavily in the real estate direction.
Yeah.
But, you know, underneath it all, I still kind of do the same thing that I always did, you know, like I'm an actor by trade and by passion, I do all sorts of things in the world of real estate.
So what are you doing now then? We've really jumped all over the map, but so now, like, you're still, because I've been following you on Instagram, and it looks like you're still, you know, you're investing in certain things in Vancouver, and I believe are you in construction building something that your family might live in Vancouver when you get back? There's something to do with that.
Yeah.
So, I'm not more into your personal life again, but I guess
that's the beauty of reality TV. No, there's so many things going on. We've got a couple of shows in development, which are kind of exciting. You know, I was going to go back and do Crazy for You, which is like my all-time favorite musical.
Broadway. I've seen that on Broadway. Oh, it's so good. Yes, continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So I was going to play Bobby Child, which was kind of like a dream role for me. And we were a week from going into the theater when the pandemic hit. So that sidelined, you know, the theater thing. But I was excited to get back on stage and just dip my toe in that world again. So who knows if that will ever manifest, not necessarily that show, but, you know, I'm sure theater will come back one day. We've got, obviously we're doing this build with A-Frame and that whole journey. We've also, you know, resized our life in Vancouver. We moved to a smaller house. We're actually going to move to a condo next, and which is kind of swimming upstream from what everyone thinks you should be doing. Yeah, I mean, we've got a development kind of group that we've created where we're looking at developing multifamily spaces in Vancouver. So we've got 3 different projects that we're working on right now. You know, there's a lot of work that happens around, you know, speaking engagements and stuff like that, talking about real estate although in this format now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a diverse, mixed bag of things. But honestly, my primary focus right now is to build this place up here.
Yeah.
And just try and fit everything else in and around that.
Mm-hmm. One thing I'm curious to ask about as well is if you were to say 3 of your favorite areas or places in Vancouver or the Lower Mainland, what would they be and why?
Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough question. We moved from Lions Bay back to East Vancouver, and
Okay.
And I love East Vancouver. I appreciate the diversity of it, the colorfulness of it. It's not perfect around the edges. And that was an important component to raise our children in. So I know that's a bit of a broad statement, but that is attractive to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I find this is a horrible generalistic statement, but those places seem to attract certain people. Place, community attracts kind of like-minded people. If you find yourself in West Vancouver up on the hill, as we know, North Vancouver, whatever place it is, then there's no judgment. It just is. It has a certain aesthetic, and it attracts certain type of people.
Yeah.
So that would be one thing. I love like the busyness of the urban center. So I love downtown. I have this kind of dream once our kids move out, we'd have, pied-à-terre in town and who knows where else we would live. But I like the urban environment. It's getting a beat down right now. So, I love downtown. I love downtown Vancouver. I think it's got a cool mix of things. You got parks and the water. And oh man, what's the third one?
Well, you kind of said, did you say 3?
I don't know. Let's say I said 3.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I mean, I'm in downtown Vancouver, and I can attest to that too. It's growing immensely. I mean, I don't know how they continue to build things or renovate things. There's nonstop construction downtown still, even right now.
And people think that with the pandemic that everyone's got this mass exodus, but it's actually not true. It's not true statistically. It's not true, in anecdotally. Like it just isn't the case.
Are you sure? Sure? I'm sure you would know. But and the reason why I do this is because I'm still, so like I said, we're in Vernon, and we are, the past few weeks specifically, we're just bloody shocked at what things are selling for now, and how there's people that are just flocking that we seem to see from either the Lower Mainland or Alberta, because, of course we're close enough to Calgary, Edmonton and stuff like that. But it's bananas. Like, it's getting bananas here. And I know you know this, I'm sure, but
I'll tell you why.
Please.
I'll tell you why. So supply and demand. There are so many people. There are a lot of people moving to small communities, and that gets a huge amount of airtime because it's a massive shift.
Yeah.
Right? So everyone's talking about, young people are leaving the city and they're going to these small little communities. They're going to Nelson, they're going to Vernon, they're going to whatever, Campbell River. Okay, so if 100 people move to Campbell River, that makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
If 100 people leave Vancouver, there's 1,000 people lined up behind them. Step into that space.
Yep.
Now, obviously, there's a little bit of a dip. There's a dip. There's a lot of people who aren't traveling. So there is a short-term impact. But you can rewind the tape on this. And, obviously I don't have a crystal ball. But give it a year. You're already seeing it in the condo market. The condo market has already started to shift back where people are going, well, okay, it's the housing prices for detached are so high now that the spread demands that people look back at other solutions. Because this whole detached thing isn't sustainable in a city. And the majority of Canadians, like it's closer to 70% of Canadians live in the urban environment. That while, to move that needle, you'd have to have a mass exodus. Mm-hmm. And it just isn't happening. It feels like it is in Vernon.
Yes. You hit the nail on the head. It's true. I think that for people that are in these quote unquote smaller communities, which are starting to grow, it does feel that way. And I think it will continue to grow, to be honest.
I agree.
But yes, if you are in the bigger metropolis, the cities, yeah, I know, I totally agree with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So, I can't believe, what time is it? Oh my God, it's almost 10 o'clock. With regards to real estate though, is there any advice you can give people currently who are looking to get into the market? I heard all these things. Should you wait? Should you do it now? Is it going to change? Like, I'm sure you get these questions all the time.
Yeah. It's a very personal and an individual answer. And this is why I suck on, Global Morning News, which I love to do, by the way. Love you guys. But, everyone wants that soundbite that gives the answer. And the reality is that there isn't one, because for you, it's different. For Hero, it's different. For me, it's different. Generally speaking, though, if you are looking to buy your principal residence, something that you're going to live in, mm-hmm. and you have a 5 to 7 year time horizon where you think you're going to live there, it is generally better to buy today than it is 7 years from now. Mm-hmm. And you have to believe in the product of it. You have to believe that tomorrow people are going to want to be where you are more than they want to be there today.
Right.
And when you're in Vancouver, I like to look at the macroeconomics of it, like the global things. Great government, great banking system. It's safe, clean air, generally speaking, water. Some of these things that we take for granted that billions of people don't have. So are people going to always want to come to Vancouver? Yes. Now, I'm biased because I'm Canadian and all that kind of stuff. There's obviously great places around the world. But so if you're in Vancouver, if you were going to buy today and you want to sell in a year, I would say you're taking a risk. That's why I don't flip properties. I buy and hold. Like I am risk adverse. I don't like to take on risk. Stresses me out. Mm-hmm. But if you buy today and you think you're going to hold on to this thing for indefinitely, then generally speaking, it's like, it's a hard question to answer.
I know it's a hard question to answer.
I believe in real estate. I mean, you're talking to a guy who puts his money where his mouth is. Like, I am investing in real estate in Vancouver, like right now.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
Not for everybody, but for me, yes. And I would say to young people is to get creative. Like, get out of this 1950s bullshit mentality that you need a 33 by 122 piece of property with a fence and a yard. You don't need that. You don't need it. Very few people actually use their yard.
Yeah.
It's astounding. And you probably don't even use half the space in your house. So get out of that old school mindset that's going to drown you in debt. Figure out a way to partner up with different people, build something yourself, create something, buy something with somebody. Look at different creative possibilities to work together to get into the real estate market. And people just don't do that. They think that there's only one way to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's fabulous advice. And that's so fascinating because I feel like with other aspects of old school mentality, we have not, for example, adopted the fact that you need to stay in the same job for 20, 30 years. Like, that's not a thing anymore. But yet, for some reason, we're still in that mindset of like having the white picket fence and the house and the yard and that's still a thing. But that's Fabulous advice.
We drink oat milk. We start podcasts. Yeah, exactly. And yet we default into this archaic mindset about what we think we need. And unfortunately, just to tie this all in a nice bow, unfortunately, the message that we send through reality television is that the solution is that bigger is better, that newer is better, that these two components equate to happiness. And I don't believe that's the case. In fact, that's the show that we're working on, to really have a contrapuntal argument to a lot of the underpinnings of shows like Love It or List It. You know, the solution is buy a bigger place. Well, I don't believe that.
No.
So,
and my husband, we bought, like, our house is not even 1,500 square feet. We bought this old, like, you know, everything we do, we try to, you know, get secondhand stuff or stuff that's not new. Actually, we're trying not to buy stuff that's, you know, for example, made in China, or buy, even though I love some of the stuff on like Wayfair and like those kinds of things, they're affordable, but and our house is over 100 years old and it's manageable. It's a small, like, it's a great, anyway, I totally.
We live in under 1,200 square feet in Vancouver. Now, I'm not a tiny home advocate. I think that that's crazy bones, but you know, family of 4, 1,200 square feet, designed well.
Yes.
Is more than enough. More than enough. And we have a yard. You know how many times my kids played in the yard last year?
I bet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. Where are you going to go? My son plays road hockey in the alley, and occasionally you go to the park.
Yep.
You're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yep.
Oh gosh, Todd, we could talk to you forever and ever and ever. Although I should call you Rebecca, because I just realized halfway through. Ooh.
I know. I noticed it halfway through too. Before we signed on, I was like, "Ooh, I got to change the name," and then I was like, I totally forgot, because you guys are like rip the Band-Aid off start. So most people are like, "Oh, how's it going? Okay, what we're gonna do is blah blah blah, and here's some questions." And you guys are like, "Hey, whoa!"
Yeah, that's how we roll.
I love it.
Yeah.
We wanted it to be a slightly different format in a way. Like, but the whole thing is just raw, like, it's just, let's just normal conversation. Let's just get right into it.
We rip the mask off.
Yeah, absolutely. And
well, I appreciate you guys asking me to come on your show, and it was a lovely conversation.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much for agreeing, and we feel very humbled and happy. And I'll pass the message on to my mom. I'll tell her to watch this episode anyway. She'll watch the odd one, but yeah.
Hi, Susan.
But just before we sign off, is there anything, you kind of already said, but anything you want to plug, anything that you want people to really know about right now that they can go find you? Or, I mean, I know they can follow you on Instagram and A-Frame and.
Yeah. I mean, I normally try and like prep my brain, but you know, homeschooling, the kids are out there, they've got a class with somebody online at 10 o'clock. So like, you know, life is just like that all the time. One thing I didn't mention, we've started this really interesting company called Solo, which is specifically designed spaces for like backyard office in well, really anywhere. But the unique thing about it is it's highly designed, but it's leased space. So we come and deliver it, and you might use it for 6 months, and then you phone and you say, "I'm done with this space," and then we come pick it up. So it's not something that you have to spend $30,000 buying. So we were really interested. This is part of this whole urban experience, living in the urban environment, the changing workplace, all of those types of things, allowing families and people to live better in the space that they have. That's kind of my philosophical bent these days. So there's that. Obviously, A-Frame. Basically, you know, if you are into Instagram and you follow me at Todd Talbot, I post almost everything. So There you go.
Amazing. And the last thing we love to ask our guests is, because we are the Getting Juicy podcast, is if you were a kind of juice, which juice would you be and why?
Which juice would I be and why? I think I would be Orange Julius.
Oh my gosh, that's a first. Hello.
Hi there.
This is my daughter, Ashlyn.
Hi, Ashlyn.
What's your favorite juice?
I don't know.
Well, you see, this is the thing about these. They throw questions at you, and you have to come up with something really quick. So what's the first thing that pops in your mind from a juice perspective?
Nestea.
Nestea.
Oh, Nestea. So you're a, oh, that's really good for the summer too, which is coming.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And she is here because she has online school starting right now.
Amazing. Have a good day in school.
Thank you so much, Todd. And maybe we'll even get to see each other up here at some point, because yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Hit me up when you're downtown. Have a good day.
Sounds good. Take care, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.